Choosing to join the military is a great honor. Less than 0.5% of the United States population are active military members. But being part of the military isn't just about being the soldier. It is also the families that become the backbone of these young men and women who choose to join. These two families agreed to talk about their experiences having a family member in the Marines and the tolls in which it took on them. But to understand what made them join, we need to look back at their childhood.
Super easy, super laid back, easygoing, never wanted to leave my side, ever wanted to leave my side.
This kid, the smallest kid, he was in first grade and the kindergartners were bigger than him. So he was always super tiny, but he never let his size stop him. He's very easygoing. He got along with everybody, and he never let people get the best of him for his size. And when someone told him he couldn't do something, he had a lot of determination to prove that he could.
As the years passed, both gentlemen realized what they wanted to do with their lives.
But military was always something that he loved. So that was always it was animals and military.
While Jacob kind of sprung this idea about joining. But joining up was the easy part. Having to tell their parents? Well, that's the hard part.
My thought was, to be honest, I begged him not to. And then my husband told me I need to stop because he's not gonna be happy with me as he gets older in life.
My initial thought was oh, okay. I definitely thought he was gonna back out for that reason. Definitely thought there was gonna be the day he was actually, I don't want to go. So I definitely thought that was gonna happen.
Because Jacob he never slept over at a friend's house. Never
went on a plane.
And he made the choice, I'm going to boot camp, the Marine Corps. And we were like, you don't even sleep over at anyone's house because you don't like it. What makes you think you're going to be able to do this? And he's like, I'm going.
It didn't surprise me. His first grade teacher, my first impression of her was not good because I went to her classroom on the back to school night and it wasn't set up. And I was like, this lady doesn't even have the nerve to set up her classroom. And it was because her brother had graduated from boot camp from the Army. And so shortly after boot camp, he came to visit. And that's kind of when I really, truly knew. So he had talked about it from first grade on. So I always blame his first and second because he had the same teacher, Miss Williams, twice. I always blame it on her. Even to this day, her and I are very close, and I still blame it on her. But I knew when the recruiters were coming to the high school, he begged for me to sign a permission slip so he could talk to them because they can't talk to him until he was a junior. And we actually signed for him to enter the military before he was 18.
Seeing their young boys / big brother leave takes a mental toll on anyone, including the parents, and especially the mothers. But the question is, how do you mentally prepare to see them leave?
I don't think there is a mental prepare. I had friends whose kids were in the Marine Corps, so that helps some, but when it's your own kid, it's a whole different ballgame. And I was actually better than my friends and family thought I was going to be. The day he left, I was a hot mess, sick to my stomach. Felt like you got punched in the gut. You couldn't wait to his first letter. When you got his letter, you were sobbing. But yeah, it was probably one of the worst days I've experienced as a parent. Selfishly, I experienced as a parent.
I don't know. I just guess I was well, if he wants to go, he wants to go. So I was just ready for it. I didn't think I was going to cry, but I did because I wasn't ready to see my brother go into the military and not see him for 3 months. So it was hard. I didn't think it was going to be hard for me either. I definitely thought it was going to be harder on my parents, but it was definitely hard on me too because I definitely did not think I was going to miss him that much.
As for Denise, She talked more about her son's first deployment and the toll it took on her.
Horrible. Not as bad as when he was in boot camp. I think that was the worst. But we knew he was starting off in Afghanistan. And from there, we weren't told where he was going to be going. And right before he left, just him giving me, power of attorney papers and having to, do his will. I had copies of his will, and there were so many things I was unprepared for. Like those types of paperwork, they say, get your affairs in order. And they basically trained him to get his affairs in order as if he was dying. And that was really hard to handle. And I always tried to not cry in front of him, which was difficult.
Trying to stay in touch or stay in the know as to what is going on can be a struggle, especially in the military. But thank the Lord for Facebook.
It wasn't until we were up at MEPS, and that's where you go to say goodbye before they get on the bus to take them, to the plane to fly them out to California. And it was meeting parents there that just said, hey, did you join Facebook? I'm like, no, what? So they're the ones that, let me on to all the Facebook. So Facebook was like my main source of information. So I was able to find a ton of stuff through there. So there was a Facebook group for, he was in boot camp. There was one when he was in Camp Pendleton, and that was for like his infantry training. And then he was stationed in 29 Palms, so there was one for 29 Palms. So I get all sorts of information. Anything I want to find out, I can find out through Facebook.
Just our friends and who have children in the military, and there's Facebook pages that literally save you. There's like Facebook pages that go from stage to stage. So when he first got to boot camp, there was a Facebook page that was boot camp and his company. So all of us you grew friends with people around the world. You became best friends with them because our kids were together.
There's an officer, it's called a FRO, Family Readiness Officer, and they send you updates and emails and things like that. So I was able to contact that person for information on how to be on the base and get on and do everything so I could be there when he returned from his first deployment.
As for now, both boys are stateside, and Kyle even had some special news to tell his mom.
He just called this morning for me. He just signed up for the National Guard.
Having someone in the armed forces can be a stressful time, but there's always those fun and interesting stories that come out of it.
He loved to torment the boys because that's what they get paid to do. And he's like, Kranzer, I'm going to torment your parents if they're here, and I'm going to tell them you switched to infantry. And he's like, go ahead. And that's always a reaction that most parents will cry over. And again, I would have, except that I knew my son better. I knew if there was a way, he would switch it. One of the guys broke his leg during the Crucible, which is their final test. And they carried him through the rest of the test so he could pass and not have to start all over. And so he took his infantry spot.
Buddy were driving because he's a policeman out there, and his partner went to Iraq, was blown up, had all these issues, like he really seen a lot of stuff. And he said they ran over a snake. And he said to his partner, oh man, did you see that? That was a huge snake. He's like, what are you talking about? He said, this big man, 6 foot, 200-pound guy starts freaking out to stop the car because he thought the snake was going to crawl up through the car. And he jumped out of the car running down the street. Galloping because he was afraid of a snake. And
which, mind you, he said it was like 6 foot.
Yeah, it was
black snake.
Yeah, and he said this guy is a big dude, and you just look at the guy and you're scared of him, but then you see him screaming like a girl over a snake. That was kind of funny.
Yeah, that was probably the funniest story he told this time.
He had some boot camp funny stories, but now they're funny. At the time, they were sad.
Yeah, like the one time his drill instructor told a kid to go chase a hawk because he kept staring at it.
He kept staring at birds, yeah.
And so he had to go chase one, and that was probably the funniest thing we've ever heard.